friends, welcome to the Plaid X2 channel. My name is John. On this channel we talk all things physical media, so movies, music, and books. If you're into that kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe down below for more of that kind of content. Friends, this is another episode of The Five. This is episode number 13, and it is featuring Ken from Mid-Level Media. Friends, I know you've already been to his channel before. Hopefully you're already subscribed to that channel. All of his information will be down below for YouTube and Instagram. He is a great guy, putting out tons of amazing content. I watch his content all the time. And so anyway, friends, this was a really fun conversation. It's one that I've been looking forward to having for quite some time, and we finally were able to match up the calendars and get this thing to work. So anyway, friends, I hope you enjoy this one. If you're new to this series, what I'll do in this The Five series is I ask 5 questions to some of my favorite YouTubers in the movie collecting community. And I ask 5 questions, and they answer each question with 5 films. And so anyway, it's about talking films. It's about getting to know these YouTubers a little bit more, and 25 film recommendations. So friends, I hope you enjoy this one with Ken from Mid-Level Media.
The theme of my channel is I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I don't know. I was excited about this category, but again, also stressed out because there's like 30 movies I could have picked for this.
I apologize that this 5 questions have caused you so much stress in your life.
It's okay. It's just me. I've got problems. I've got issues. Some people may think, oh, you're weird because you like watching people get cut up and maimed and mutilated and all that kind of stuff. That's not really what it's about to me. That's kind of like the cherry on top. There's
Well, Ken, thanks so much, man, for doing this. I really appreciate you coming on to answer these 5 questions. So thank you so much for doing it, man.
Awesome. I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for the invite.
Well, I do want to say a couple things before we get started. I do want to say congrats on all the growth and success of your channel, especially over this last year, man. You've got just like unique, really good content that's clearly connecting with people and growing. Yep. So congratulations, man.
Yeah, I consider myself very fortunate. I say it all the time. I have no idea why people hit the subscribe button. I'm glad they do, though. I'm glad they enjoy the content.
So if there's somebody watching who's like thinking about starting or just started, they're at like 12 subscribers, what would be like the first one piece of advice you'd say you should do this?
You're just getting started. I tell people all the time, I was like, just keep recording, keep pressing the record button, keep getting used to talking on camera, and just keep putting out content until it starts to connect with somebody. And you just have to have confidence in yourself. So
cool. Awesome.
That's the main thing. And don't get too bogged down by all the technical stuff. Everybody wants to get all the fancy editing equipment and best equipment before they get started. Just press the record button on your phone, start recording, and put something out there in the world. See what people say. Nice.
Cool. I've got to say, one of my favorite segments of yours is Physical Media Report. I love it.
Yes.
And I'm specifically waiting for the day that you announce there's a Rocky 4K set coming out. That's the one thing I'm waiting for.
You see my recent video? That's the one where I was talking about anticipated 4Ks, ones that I really want to happen. And Rocky was number 1.
Absolutely, man. I was wondering if it would come out because Rocky 4, they just released the theater, like the director's cut, Stallone's cut.
That's probably honestly going to be the first Rocky movie that you see in 4K. At least Rocky. I mean, Creed movies are in 4K. Yeah. If you want to count those as Rocky movies. I do personally, but I know a lot of people that don't. So
now I don't know if I'm going to count. Creed 3 is going to be tough for me to count as a Rocky film because Stallone's not involved in this one apparently. So
yeah, I kind of feel like they closed the door on him in Creed 2, but I don't know. You never know. Maybe a small cameo at the end or something.
I want
maybe a run in.
And then I do want to say thanks for inviting everybody into January Western Month. It's been a lot of fun on Instagram watching all the posts, man, and just seeing all these films. And so my wish list is growing because I'm seeing all these films I don't have that I need to have.
Yeah, the response to that's been overwhelming, to be honest. I expected maybe 2 people to do a video, a few posts online. And I think about 15 people's already done videos and just 100 posts almost. It's been crazy, but definitely appreciate all the support and stuff for it. But yeah, I've been having it. We're going to get into that in a second because that's your first question. But I've been having a hell of a time going back and watching some of these older Western films.
Nice. And then my last question before we jump into the actual 5 questions is every time I watch the Physical Media Report, the same thing goes through my head. is, do you have any background in like radio, television, or like theater?
No.
Dude, your intro every time, I'm like, this guy is killing the intro. Like the whole shtick, the attitude, the energy, it's like, it's literally perfect. And I was like, he's got to have like some experience doing something because he's crushing. It's super unique, man. It's good.
The theme of my channel is I don't know what I'm doing half the time. It just I don't know. I guess it works though. I don't know.
Dude, it's perfect. Like the intro to that.
But my entire idea for that in the beginning, because I came out, that's been almost 2 years I've been doing that, the physical media report. And at first for like a year, only 200 people watched it. But I don't remember when I started doing the rotating, but it's kind of like just the old school, like, you know, anchor man that kind of goes to the one camera and then goes to the next and then says, get ready for your news report.
Yeah. Dude, it's perfect.
Yeah, I have fun with it every single week, and it's all pretty much improv. I come up with it like right there on the spot. Like when I press record, I say whatever, and then I switch the angle and say the other thing. I know what I'm going to talk about, so that helps.
Sure.
But
it's perfect, man. You're crushing it. So yeah, every single week I'm like, he's got to have some background in something because you've choreographed that and written that perfectly. So
no, I don't know where it comes from. I really don't. I have no background in any of this type of stuff.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
It's good, man. Cool. Well, we're going to dive into the 5 for those of you watching who've never seen an episode. This is your first one. I am doing these conversations with some of my favorite YouTubers who channels I watch all the time. And so we will do 5 questions to talk films, obviously, to learn more about these YouTubers. So we're learning more about Ken today. And then we get 25 film recommendations, which is awesome, but not great for a lot of people's wallets because then they're going to use on their wish list. So I've got my pen and paper here. I'll be writing down titles. So let's dive in, man. So question number 1, what 5 films have you seen most recently?
Well, the first one that I'm going to show off is one that I don't know if you want to bother writing down. But I watched this last night because I just got the 4K yesterday. I was on the fence about even grabbing it because I wasn't a big fan when I watched it, but Halloween Kills.
Okay.
I'm a big Michael Myers fan, big Halloween fan my entire life. I felt like I had to do it. It's part of the collection. I gave it another shot last night and I felt about the same way I did the first time. It's a mess of a movie, horrible dialogue, horrible story directions. Michael's really cool in it. That's the only positive I got, but it's not a great movie. I don't know if you're familiar with that Halloween franchise at all beyond the first one, but it's definitely one of my least favorite.
I saw the first one for the very first time this Halloween.
Okay.
So I'd never seen it before. Well, I think I was too hyped up that it was going to be terrifying. And so when I actually saw it, it's not terrifying. But I will say it was so obvious as to why it's a classic and why it's so like highly revered. And it's like the perfect film to watch in October. So yeah. So I respect it highly.
It is. Everything you just said is true. And I would say the opposite for this is not a good movie to watch any time of the year, but I feel like I'm being too hard on it. It's not the worst movie ever. It's not Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Okay.
But it's not a good Halloween movie. Just not.
Gotcha.
So my next one, I also watched this yesterday and I picked this up yesterday and it was Antlers, which is a horror film that came out in 2021, I believe, directed by Scott Cooper. And I think he also did Hostels. I don't know if you saw that one. It had Christian Bale in it. Mm-hmm. This is a solid horror movie. It was definitely better than Halloween Kills. I'm not 100% how I felt about some of the story directions it took. It felt like it had something to say, but it didn't quite bring it together by the end for me. But it has some good kind of body horror, and it's a solid, I would guess, monster movie. The monster's cool in it, so a little too CGI heavy, but good performances. It's a solid horror movie. I give it like a 3.5 out of 5.
All right.
So let's get into some of the Westerns I've been watching. So I watched Young Guns this week. This is okay. I didn't love it, I guess, because it's got all of those like 80s big time actors in it, like Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. It's like that's all I can see when I watch it. Like I don't feel like I'm watching cowboys, but those 80s actors playing cowboys. But it's okay. It's a solid story. You got Kiefer Sutherland in it. It was okay. I didn't love it, but it was all right. But these next two are great. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, what label put that one out?
So this is the Walmart edition.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, it's like I'm a Walmart sticker. These Walmart stickers are so hard to peel off. But this is a retro VHS slipcover that
Oh, interesting.
Lionsgate did these
Okay,
at first, and then Mill Creek started doing them. But they're really cool. Like on the
cool.
side right there, you see the Young
Nice.
Guns, kind of like the old school VHS.
That's
And it's
awesome.
got the tape coming out. But I've got probably like 20 or 30 of these. I think I'm pretty sure Tony's got the entire collection. Basement
She
Blues.
does.
No doubt. But right here, I got the Good, the Bad, the Ugly,
Nice.
the Kino Lorber edition. This was my least favorites of the three. I like The Fistful of Dollars, and for a few dollars more than this one. This is definitely a great movie, though. I love the movie. It was just a little bit too long. It's almost 3 hours long, and at this point in my life, I'm getting older. I get tired a lot easier. It's like by the time you get to that 2.5 hour mark, I'm just like, just come on, let's wrap this up. But it's still a great movie. I think the last 30 minutes are definitely the strongest part about it, with the Civil War sequence and all the stuff in the graveyard. So yeah, I like Clint Eastwood's awesome as this character. I loved him in the first two movies, and Lee Van Cleef. I kept calling him Lee Van Cliff in my review video, and everybody annihilated me in the comment section.
Of course they did, man.
But it's like, yeah.
I pronounced this one actress wrong twice. And yeah, people were like phonetically spelling it out for me. And I was like, thanks, guys. I appreciate
They're like,
it.
do your research. I'm like, look, I do my research, but I don't always look up how to pronounce certain names. So this one I'm really excited to talk about. If you asked me to make my top 20 movies of all time list tomorrow, I would probably put this one in there. And it was a first time watch for me this week, and that was Unforgiven.
Nice.
This is an amazing movie. I loved it so much. But I guess by the time this comes out, I'll probably already have reviewed it on the channel, but I shot my review for it last night. I don't think I've ever felt as passionate talking about a movie on YouTube.
Wow.
As I did this movie. I absolutely loved it. Clint Eastwood is phenomenal in this movie. Have you seen this before?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, God, it's so good. Like the ending was so satisfying. I loved all the characters in it. I love Gene Hackman. I love Morgan Freeman's in this movie. He's great. It's just, I don't know, I loved everything about this movie. It really got its hooks into me, and it's a perfect runtime. It was only 2 hours and 10 minutes, so
it's good.
Made it even better. So yeah, that's like one of my favorite movies of all time now. And that's really cool at this point to watch a new movie that I haven't seen before, and it ends up being one of my favorites.
That's awesome. Now you're watching, have you already seen Tombstone?
No, I was hoping to watch that this week. I don't know if I'm going to get time to. I am going to try to get to it because I've heard that's a great one too.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that one, because it is a great film. Yeah,
I'm definitely going to watch it. But yeah, I was honestly shocked by Unforgiven. It's that was a great movie. Love it.
It is. Cool, man. All right. So question number 2 is, what 5 films do you have your earliest memories from?
Okay. This was hard to think, because it's like I have to go back to my childhood and start to think. Like, I remember watching cartoons and stuff when I was a kid, but I was trying to think of like actual movies that I remember watching early on. So one of them is Beetlejuice. I remember watching this real young as a kid. So a lot of my early memories with film is with Beetlejuice. And this is probably where my love for horror really stemmed. I would say this movie, because it's not a full-on horror movie, but it's definitely plays in that genre. That's like a horror comedy family movie. So I love Beetlejuice. It's in my top 5 movies of all time. It's just, It's one of the best movies. Michael Keaton is so good as this character. It's hilarious. Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Winona Ryder, just Catherine O'Hara, just everybody in this movie is great. I love it. And yeah, I remember I was probably like 4 or 5, I think, when I saw that for the first time. Came out in 1989. This next one, I think, came out the same year, or maybe Beetlejuice was 88 and this was 89, but Batman 1989 is one that I remember watching when I was very young, probably 5 or 6. And this is my introduction to, I guess, comic book movies, or just comic book, like superheroes in general, probably. This is probably my first introduction to that, was Michael Keaton as Batman. So This will always be a really important movie to me, and it's why like the Batman could be the best movie on the face of the planet. It could be the best Batman movie objectively, but I'll always love this movie the most. It'll be my favorite Batman till I die. Michael Keaton will be my Batman. So Batman, I remember watching very young.
I remember
Hook.
89. In 89, I was going to like my local corner store buying those wax packs of cards, and it collected the entire set of that film in 89 when it came out.
It was a big deal.
It's huge.
Like that movie was nuts.
Where do you rank Jack as Joker?
In my heart, it has to be number one. I can't take it. I honestly can't take that away from Heath Ledger, though. He's my favorite. He's my favorite Joker.
Yeah.
That performance is so good. I don't think The Dark Knight, this might be a bit of a hot take, I don't think The Dark Knight is that great of a movie. It's just that Heath Ledger elevates it so much with his performance that's what people remember about it. That's why it's always on the top of everybody's comic book list. But my next one's Hook. I think I saw this in the theaters. Robin Williams is Peter Pan in this movie. Dustin Hoffman is Hook. I haven't seen this movie in quite some time, but I remember being very young when I saw this in theaters and just loving it. I always loved this movie. I watched it all the time as a kid.
Cool.
Got The Little Mermaid right here. This was the first movie I saw in theaters. I think this came out in 89 too. So I was born in 85. So I was like 4 or 5. I think that's why most of these movies are late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
But The Little Mermaid, it's a fun animated movie. It's not my favorite animated movie. I watched it a couple years ago. But yeah, I remember seeing it in the theater when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure it was my first theater watch. And my last one has to be good old E.T. That's my movie. I remember watching this probably when I was 4 or 5 as well, and just loving it. I've always loved it my whole life. So E.T.
I did a rewatch of that about a year ago for the first time in decades, and I was shocked at how well it stands up. It's just such a great film.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those movies that you remember loving when you were a kid, and you watch it like through your entire life, and it just never changes for you. You never have any negative feelings towards it at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, I watched it, I think a year ago. It's like, it still holds up. It's still great. Every part of it.
I can't wait to introduce my daughter to it when she's ready to watch that. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah. I think, that's another layer to it that you mentioned. Is a lot of these movies I loved when I was a kid, I got to introduce to my kids like 4 or 5 years ago, and then, getting their reaction to them, and do they like them? Do they not like them as much? But it's always fun to share them, with your kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, E.T. is phenomenal film. All these movies are great movies, but that's my number 2 movie of all time. Number 2.
Nice. All right. So question number 3 is what 5 films have had the greatest impact on you emotionally? It could be impacted your worldview, your life perspective, or none of those things, but just had a significant impact on you.
Yeah, this was a doozy right here to pick these out. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and I have this whole set.
Cool. But
it's really, I would say, A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, but I'll specifically say The Empire Strikes Back, and that's my favorite movie of all time. I feel like it at a very young age kind of just taught me, differences between good and evil, and just a lot about morality and how there are shades of gray in that as well. And he gets the bombshell dropped on him at the end of the movie. The biggest bad evil of the entire galaxy is his father, and then that's real conflicted. Luke, I feel like a lot of people say that Luke's he's like the ultimate hero. He always does right, but it felt like he was operating in some shades of gray there in the first couple movies. He didn't always make the right decisions. He was a little smug, a little arrogant. I feel like, he was a little whiny. But yeah, all that stuff. And then just the scenes with him and Yoda and Dagobah when he's training, and just throwing in the themes of giving up, always try your best. Even if you think you're going to fail, still try. All those themes still resonate with me and hit me to this day. You know, the scene where he lifts the X-wing out of the swamp, and he's like, how did you do that? You know, because he's like, that's impossible. And he's like, that's why you fail. It's like when you think something's impossible, when you're not willing to put in the work and try, then you've already failed. It's already over with. So believing in yourself, all that stuff was very important and definitely formed me as a person really early on with that movie. So a lot of themes in that movie. That's why it's my favorite movie of all time. This next one's a bit of a weird choice, but it definitely impacted me, and I'll explain why. But Innocent Blood, I don't know if you've ever heard of this film.
No.
It's directed by John Landis, who also did American Werewolf in London, Animal House, and all those 80s comedies and stuff. But I remember watching this with my grandfather, which was weird that he put this on when I was probably like 6 or 7, but it was really like my introduction to horror. And there's like a scene where she's a vampire and she like bites somebody's neck in the car, and there's all kinds of gore and she's like transforming and stuff. And he just looked over at me. He's like, you know, all that stuff's fake, right? Like they make all that stuff, and just explained to me how it wasn't real and it was fake and just the whole process of it. And I was like, oh, really? And then after that, I was a horror nut. Like it transformed me, and I loved horror. I was going to the video store as like 8 or 9, getting Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Friday the 13th movies. I just became obsessed with horror after that. So that really impacted me and shaped me. Just that one moment with my grandfather watching Innocent Blood. And I'll rewatch this recently. It's not the best movie. But yeah, there's a scene at the beginning of it. I was like, I can't believe my grandfather put this on for me. She's like full on naked, full frontal nudity in like the first 30 seconds of that movie. It's crazy. But continuing on with the horror theme, I gotta throw Halloween in there. This movie definitely impacted me quite a bit. I think I saw this a little bit later on. I think I was like 12 or 13 because I'd already watched Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all those movies by then. But this movie just, I don't know, it just felt different. It just felt like a different kind of movie, and it really shaped me into my teenage years and just made me, I don't know, I feel like there's a certain kind of stigma when it comes to horror. And it's like some people may think, oh, you're weird because you like watching people get cut up and maimed and mutilated and all that kind of stuff. That's not really what it's about to me. That's kind of like the cherry on top. There's a lot of really important themes and subject matter that horror can tackle. I think it does it the best at any other genre, if I'm being honest. And this movie really just kind of, I guess, made me feel better about being a horror fan in a certain way, because it was more of a prestigious kind of horror film than I was used to seeing at that time. So yeah, good old Michael Myers. I love Michael Myers. I used to dress up like Michael every single Halloween, I'd say from like age 12 to 18. I used to be in haunted houses and stuff as him, like my church haunted houses. So I had a hell of a time. I would say Michael was a very important part of my childhood, which is why I'm so precious about some of these movies and why I dislike certain ones so much and like other ones so much.
Cool.
I'm very precious about the Halloween franchise. This next one is La La Land.
Cool.
This is a more recent pick for me. There's a lot of themes in this movie about like you're following your passions, your dreams, and stuff like that. I remember watching this movie at a time where I'm not going to say I was necessarily like in a dark place, but I used to work at a job that I did not like being at all. I worked like 60, 70 hours a week. I barely had time to watch movies or do anything else that I was passionate about. It was like work, come home, work, come home. And I watched this movie and it just kind of sparked something in me. It kind of sparked some kind of passion. I was like, I got to leave this place. And like 6 months later, I was gone, had another job with a better schedule, more time with the family. And I'm not going to say it's all because of La La Land, but it definitely, it just sparks something in me. It's a movie about following your dreams, about following your heart, your passions. And it's got great music. I love this movie.
Cool.
I don't know if you've seen this one before, but
I haven't, but that's high praise that it changed your entire life.
It really did. And there's another movie we're going to talk about, but I got it in a different stack that I watched it almost the exact same time. And I would say it was responsible for doing the exact same thing, but
That's awesome.
I'll put it in another stack. This one right here is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And This is a very important movie to me. My wife, my two kids, we all went to the theater to see this when it came out. I wasn't necessarily too excited about it. I'm not big into like animated stuff other than like Pixar or some Disney movies, things like that. Not animated superhero stuff anyway, but this is such a good movie, has such a powerful story. It's just got great music. And we were all in the theater, and it's like one of the only times where we all watched a movie together and we just all equally loved it just as much. We were all going crazy. It's just a very special moment. And it just kind of, I feel like I've always loved the movies, but there's definite points in my life where I like them less than I do other times. And this just kind of reminded me at like an older age, just the power of movies and just why I love them. Just the communal experience, how it can bring people together, bring families together, people together. So definitely a reminder of that with this movie, this silly little Marvel animated film, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So that is my answer for that one.
Cool, man. That's a great memory to have. Like I love, I've got a daughter who's pretty young, but there are like 3 or 4 movies that if when those movies come up, like they actually like kind of tug on my heartstrings, because my daughter and I connected over those certain films. You know what I mean? Like the first film she loved, the first Christmas film that she was really into. And then, yeah, it really does connect, or does make connections with you and either family or friends in like sometimes some really pivotal or great seasons of life. So yeah, that's really cool, man. That's a great story to have with that film.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, with kids movies, like there's tons of those movies. I remember like watching with my kids when they were really young, and they're getting older now. Like my son's 11, so he's not even really that interested in watching movies anymore. He's more about playing video games. My daughter's more about watching YouTube videos. So we don't watch a ton of movies together. So those memories are very important to me. Another one I didn't have a physical media representation for, so I didn't include it, but I probably would have if I did. Was Inside Out. That one really affected me quite a bit, because it really teaches you a lot about just how it's okay to be sad, and things don't always have to be perfect and good all the time. And that really hit me just at age 30. Like I felt like that was the first time I was realizing that with Inside Out. So that's another one I would put on there.
Dude, that movie wrecked me. So we did an international move. I had to do an international move for work. And so I left where I'd lived for 14 years, family, friends, everything I knew and loved. And I'm in this new place with not all that support system around you. We had our first child after being married for 15 years. And like everything is crazy and different. And all I wanted was to be back to where I was. And when Riley comes in after trying to run away and she's just in tears, just wanting to be home, I was watching it just like drying my face off. I was like, rough, I'm man. Riley really right now. I'm Riley.
Freaking Pixar, it's a great film. They get you every time.
They do, man. They're
like
so good.
Toy Story 3, the end of that movie with like Andy's giving his toys away. Like it's magic what they do over there sometimes.
When I watched the special features too on Inside Out, how they had psychologists as a part of the writing team. So like they knew what they were doing on a psychology level when they're writing this film. So they just know how to tap into like the human experience, and they get you.
And not even just the sadness, but just it's having to leave stuff behind from your childhood, stuff that's you can't do anymore the same way that you did. So you can't experience the same way that you did when you're a kid. And that's powerful stuff, because as a 36-year-old, man child that still likes to go back and watch movies from his childhood and play video games, and it's like I've got a tight grip on this stuff from my childhood, and I don't want to let it go. It's like it's not the same anymore,
Yeah, those are good movies, man. Those are good. So question number 4, what 5 films do you consider to be underrated?
Underrated. I was excited about this category, but again, also stressed out because there's like 30 movies I could have picked for this. I
apologize that this 5 questions have caused you so much stress in your life.
It's okay. It's just me. I've got problems. I've got issues. This first one I want to talk about is, and again, being underrated so subjective, is like, what does that really mean? Box office wise, commercial wise, critic wise. But I just choose to look at it as these are just movies I think need to be talked about more. And this is a movie from 2016. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called Sing Street. And this is one of my favorite movies of the past 10 years. It's probably honestly like in my top 5 or something. Um, it's just a movie about a young boy. It really connects to you just, as a guy. I mean, it could connect to you as a female as well, but um, about a young boy who's trying to impress a girl. So he starts a band. He tells her he's in a band, and she's like, okay, cool. Well, I'll have to come see you guys. And then he's like, well, shoot, I don't have a band. And he has to go start a band. And it's about also about following your dreams, following your passions, creating music. It's got one of the absolute best original soundtracks that I've ever heard. Like, all the music in this movie is absolutely original. It's set in the 80s, so it has those 80s vibes too. It's set in Ireland. So yeah, it just has a real punk rock style to it. And it's one of the best movies that I've seen, like I said, in the past 5-10 years. I love this movie. And I don't feel like it gets talked about enough. I don't feel like anybody really knows about it or brings it up, other than the film community. A lot of people love this movie, but I think it needs to be watched more, needs to be experienced more. It's a great movie.
Cool.
This next one is a movie I watched, I think, for the first time a couple years ago, and it's got Sylvester Stallone in it. You've probably seen this if you're a big Stallone fan, but it's called Copland.
Yeah.
And this is directed by James Mangold, who also did Ford v Ferrari and Logan. He's done tons of great movies, but I think this one's super underrated because I think that this is better than any Scorsese movie, and it feels like a Scorsese movie. I would put this above any Scorsese movie I've seen. And I love Scorsese. I love all of his movies. But this movie, there's something about it. I love Stallone's character in this film. I love how timid he is towards the other cops. And it's got all the Scorsese mainstays in it, except for Stallone. It's got Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro. So it has that Scorsese vibe to it, so much so that you would just believe that it was directed by Scorsese if you didn't know any better. So yeah, I think James Mangold did a hell of a job of this movie, and I was honestly blown away. I felt around the same way when I watched this one as I did when I watched Unforgiven.
Oh wow.
So yeah, this is just, I don't feel like it gets talked about enough. Everybody wants to talk about Goodfellas or Casino or all those Scorsese gangster movies from the 90s, but nobody brings up Copland. And I don't even know if you would call this a full-fledged gangster film, but it definitely plays in that genre, I would say.
Stallone turned heads with that film. He was just kind of a whatever action guy, other than Rocky. But that film, he stood out in that film.
Oh, he's so good in it because he plays such a different type of character for him. He was always the badass action hero type, and in that one, he's just real timid and taking shit from everybody, and until you get to the very end. But yeah, he's incredible in that movie. This next one is a sci-fi action film from 2018. It's called Upgrade, and it's starring Logan Marshall Green, directed by Lee Winnell, who also directed The Invisible Man. Did you see The Invisible Man?
Not the. I've only seen the original, Universal
the original
Monsters.
One, not the newer one. He also worked with James Wan on the first Saw movie. He's worked with him on Insidious, some of those other movies, but this is a really cool action flick that kind of feels a little bit like RoboCop, kind of in the same vein as RoboCop. So he gets this chip implanted in the back of him after a wreck, and it kind of gives him these superpowers, I guess you would say. He kind of takes it. He can just tell it these people are coming to fight him. He's in a bad situation. He can just be take over, the little stem. I think it's called a stem or something. He says take over, and it takes over his body, and it's just fights and stuff for him, and he just turns into this real badass action hero guy who can whip ass. And there's just some incredible sequences of gore in this movie, and it's just a really good story too. And I think it was only made for $6 million, so it proves that you can do a really cool science fiction action film for cheap. And I think more movies need to have smaller budgets like this. But yeah, this is a hell of a movie. It's a Blumhouse movie too.
Cool.
I almost dropped it. This next movie, with a lot of my picks, I get into the horror genre a little bit. But this is Evil Dead 2013. So it's the remake to Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. And I like those movies. I like the Raimi movies, the Bruce Campbell movies, Ash, and all that stuff. But this movie to me is the best in the entire franchise. And it's super underrated because I think a lot of people just view it as some kind of cheap cash in remake, reboot, or whatever, because they did a lot of those in like the 2000s and the early 2010s. But this movie has something to say about addiction and a lot of different things. It's a dark movie. It's a much darker movie. It's not really like a horror comedy like the other ones, but there's also sequences where it is real kind of outlandish and just does some really crazy balls to the walls, bonkers things when you get towards that final act and the last 30 minutes. It's like literally raining blood in front of this house that's on fire, and she's got a chainsaw. So it kind of goes for those gore sequences that the original ones did, kind of in the vein of Sam Raimi. But I don't know. I think this is an incredible remake. It's the best of the franchise. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And I don't think enough people talk about it. So Evil Dead 2013. That's my fourth pick. And now we're going to get into more prestige Oscar territory with Waves. This is an A24 film that I don't feel like anybody talks about. And the year it came out, it didn't even get nominated for anything. I think it should have won all the awards. Definitely some acting awards, but it's got Sterling K. Brown in it. I'm trying to see. I can't even think of all. It's really not a bunch of like really well-known actors, but I don't know. It's got Lucas Hedges in it. I know he's been in quite a few movies. It's just a really powerful story. It's got the father-son themes in it as well. Some bad things happen. His son's like getting ready to get a football scholarship, and something bad happens that kind of sets that off course. And it's about his relationship with his father and how what the son does affects the rest of the family, and just the pain that it inflicts on everybody. And there's just a lot of great stuff in this movie. It's a heartbreaking film. It's not a happy movie at all, but I absolutely love this movie, and it should have been recognized for like all the Oscars, and everybody just forgot about it by the time they got to the Oscars. So I think it's super underrated. Waves.
I haven't seen that one. I wrote that down. I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. Really good A24 movie. They're well known for like doing like, I guess, weirder movies.
Yeah.
Like the horror, the sci-fi, and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of off movies. That's really just a straightforward drama.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, did you ever see Moonlight?
No.
That won Best Picture, I
Yeah.
think, in like 2016. But it's kind of like that.
Okay.
I would say kind of the same thing. And that's what I'm talking about. Moonlight wins Best Picture, but then that movie nobody ever talks about it. And I would kind of put them on equal footing.
Interesting. I'm really looking forward to, again, Physical Media Report. When you announce Come On gets a physical release.
Oh, well, that's coming soon because it did this week, I think.
Did it really? Dude,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it, but I'm pumped to see that one. I love Joaquin, and I hear this is so different for him because he's so normal in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about it. Usually with A24 movies, I'm sold when they put A24 on there. So I don't watch any trailers or anything. I don't even do research. It's just as soon as it comes out, I buy it.
I won't say any more about it, but I am so excited for that one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Also, another movie. They've been doing a lot of black and white movies recently, which I do. I love that.
Yeah.
But
Macbeth
Belfast. Yeah, Macbeth. But then
Yeah.
Belfast, if you heard of that one.
No.
I think it's a movie directed by Kenneth Branagh. And that's supposed to be getting a release pretty soon, but it's a big movie that I think is going to win some Oscars or get nominated or something this year.
I'll look that one up too. Cool. Well, man, the final question, and then all the anxiety and stress will be finished. What 5 films bring you the most joy, hope, laughter? They put a smile on your face.
Now, this is where I got to flex my love for comedy, because there's 2 genres that I've loved pretty much my entire life, and that's comedy and horror. It's always been those 2. It's just, unfortunately, we don't get any good comedies anymore.
Yeah.
At least like in the past 10 years, it feels like. But the first one I'm going to bring out is not a comedy. There's comedic elements there. It's definitely got some funny parts in it, but I got to throw it Back to the Future. This movie just brings me so much joy every time I watch it. It doesn't matter how many times I watch it. I absolutely love this movie. And if I could throw the whole trilogy in there, I would. But I'll go with just the first one. There's something about this movie. Every time I watch it, I can watch it every day. That's like one of my probably desert island movies. It's just such a fun movie, such great fun characters, and just a great fun story, and I love it. So comedies, Liar Liar is definitely one. It doesn't. This is one that I've been watching since it came out. I think I was like 12 when I watched it. I laughed my little immature 12-year-old butt off back then, and I still laugh the exact same way when I watch it now. And this is getting a new release, I think, next week. It's a Shout
really?
Factory release, so I've got that pre-ordered. Definitely going to be talking about Liar Liar pretty soon on the channel. This is one of my top 5 favorite comedies of all time, and Jim Carrey's best role, in my opinion. It's his best balance between like the dramatic and the comedic, I think. Because before this, he was just doing like the goofy slapstick stuff, like The Cable Guy, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, all those kind of movies. And then after this is when he did The Truman Show. And I think that this movie really kind of bridges the gap between the two, because you have the dramatic moments with him and his son and stuff like that. His son's let down by him and stuff like that. And then you have the goofy slapstick stuff in here too, when he's in the bathroom kicking his own ass for 10 minutes. It's just the funniest movie. I love this movie. I think Jim Carrey's phenomenal in this film.
It is good.
And then I got The 40-Year-Old Virgin. This is one of my favorite comedies of all time. Has been since I think I was 20 when this came out. I saw it in the theaters, and pretty much my introduction to Steve Carell, I feel like. Well, he was in Bruce Almighty, I think. That was probably my introduction, but it was introduction to him as a lead, directed by Judd Apatow. I love Judd Apatow. I love a lot of his movies. They're just something, I know some people aren't a fan of that style of comedy. They may think his movies are a little bit too long, but I've always been a fan of pretty much everything that he's done. And The 40-Year-Old Virgin, it definitely started with this movie. It's so incredibly funny. Steve Carell is just so funny in this movie. Everybody nails in this movie. Seth Rogen, I'm pretty sure this is like his first big movie. It's hilarious. And I gotta throw in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
This is my favorite Robin Williams film, and it's definitely the most iconic Robin Williams film, I feel like. And it's a movie that I can just watch. I've probably seen this movie like 50 or 60 times in my life, and every time I watch it, I love it even more than the time before I watched it.
Cool.
It's a phenomenal film, with some dramatic moments in it as well. It's a good movie. It's a longer movie too. I think it's like 2.5 hours or something. But Mrs. Doubtfire is incredible. Love Mrs. Doubtfire. And the last one is Office Space. And this one, I guess you can maybe file under impactful as well, because it really taught me just how much work actually does suck. Before I even started working.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never really worked in like an office setting, so it doesn't really it's not really relatable like on that level to me. But it is an extremely relatable movie, like, when you've worked for so long. And so it definitely changes with you over time. I watch this movie differently now than I did when I guess I was like 14 or 15 when I first watched it. But I used to watch this movie like every day. Like I couldn't go to sleep without watching Office Space. Absolutely love Office Space. It's an incredible movie. It's a great Jennifer Aniston performance too. I love her in this movie. Ron Livingston. Trying to think of the guy that plays Lumbergh. What's his name? Gary Coleman. Yeah, Gary Cole. Directed by Mike Judge, so the same guy that did Beavis and Butthead and all that stuff. And yeah, it's just such a smart comedy. And I feel like it was so ahead of its time too when it came out. I don't feel like it got the appreciation it deserved. It definitely has now. Everybody loves this movie, but yeah, Office Space. It's a great movie. I smile every time I watch it. Every single time they take that fax machine out back,
it's the best scene.
Beat the shit out of it. The best.
Every time I think of that movie, that's the scene that immediately comes to my mind.
Yeah.
It's such a good scene.
Yeah, it's fantastic. All those movies are they're all so quotable. That was my life when I was a kid. I would just walk around and quote random comedies.
That's cool.
That I loved. And now I feel like I'm getting older. I used to be so good at it, just like quoting movies and stuff. And now I forget everything. I can't even remember like any of the iconic quotes anymore.
Yeah, you start getting closer to middle age. I'm 43, and you start botching the quotes. or you get halfway through and you're like, I don't know how this one finishes anymore.
And then you remember back when you were a kid, the older people that would mispronounce and misquote stuff all the time, be like, no, it's this. And then now I'm starting to know how they felt.
Yeah, man. When your kids are like correcting you on that stuff, my daughter's 7. And when she does that to me, it's like, oh man, I am the person that I was laughing at when I was a kid. I'm that guy now. So
yeah, exactly. I used to be on it. Like I could just do entire scenes, recite them. Now it's like nothing. I feel like no, I can't do it. I'm not even going to try. But the liar liar scene where he gets the speeding ticket. Oh yeah. I used to do that entire bits. I could do the whole
seriously.
Thing. And I don't even know what I could remember of it now. I would butcher it if I tried.
That's good, man. No, that Office Space, I think you're right. It should be required viewing for like kids getting ready to leave college. Like this is what most of your lives are going to be like.
Yeah, it really is. Cause it doesn't just deal with like life in the office, which is really kind of the, I don't know if The Office was maybe inspired by Office Space or not. I know it was a British TV show, but it was really like the prelude to that show. But also it doesn't just deal with like life in the office, but you also got Jennifer Aniston who works in the food and restaurant industry. Then you got the one guy who has to go to work every day, construction worker. So it just deals with work on all fronts, and it does it so well.
It does, man. Well, those are great picks. You definitely added some that no one else has brought up before. So that's great.
I tried because I've watched quite a few episodes of this show. So I was trying to pick some stuff that other people hadn't picked, but also, remain true to myself and over the best answers for me too.
I think some people want to like steer clear of like bigger franchises like a Star Wars, but it's important that someone says it. If that is the thing that was huge for them, then like you got to say it. You got to give it credit. So
yeah, I could not say Star Wars, could not bring up E.T., and I could not bring up Back to the Future. Those are I got my top 3 movies of all time.
Good
in this stack today.
I also saw Back to the Future for the 80s. For me is a black hole of just, I don't know anything about the 80s almost at all, other than like Rocky films. So I saw Back to the Future for the first time a few months ago, and I watched through the whole trilogy, and obviously they're brilliant. And I saw Ferris Bueller's Day Off this week for the very first time.
That was a blind spot for me too. I think I watched it for the first time a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
So good. I want to punch the dude in the face the entire time. He's such a jerk. But
he is. But how does the 80s? Because you said, how old are you? 43.
Yeah.
How does the 80s become a blind spot for you if you grew up in that decade? I'm just curious.
For me, I started playing sports as a kid, real young, and my whole life was sports. So like I would play sports. If it's after school, it's basketball practice. It's outside playing football. It's whatever. Summer is on the baseball diamond.
So you mean that you actually had a life when you were a kid? You weren't holed up and watching movies all day. Okay, I gotcha.
And my parents wouldn't let me, man. I remember when The Simpsons came out, and my parents were like, "Absolutely not! You're not watching that stuff," and just dying to watch it. So when I went, it also wasn't allowed. Like it was very. I had Indiana Jones, Ninja Turtles, Star Trek, or Star Wars. Those are the only films I remember being in my home. And so I watched those countless times. And then when I was in college, after I got married, it was just, I would dove into 90s stuff, and it was Casino. It was all of that stuff. It was Heat. And I just head first in all these VHS tapes of all these films that I'd never seen before. So, but 80s, I'm not into 80s music either. So there's like, that decade is just not appealing. I'm a 90s guy through and through.
I only love 80s music now. It's like
really?
Only thing I listen to. Well, I like 90s too. Okay. I like 70s, 60s. Anything before 2000, I like.
So Limp Bizkit ruined it for you.
Pretty much. But when I was a kid, though, I was diehard Limp Bizkit when I was in middle school. But I quickly realized that that's not that wasn't it.
Yeah, 90s for me, and then the older I get, the more I'm into like 20s through the 50s when it comes to films.
I noticed that. I want to get there. I
find it relaxing, and that's what I love about it.
It really is. Every single time I go back and watch a classic movie, it's just like this is just nice. It feels simple. Everything feels simple. Everybody
Yeah,
feels happy. Um,
absolutely.
it's just nice. It's a good time. It's a
Yeah,
good time to be alive. It's not like now where everything's just so heavy and just everything's got to have a message, and
yeah,
it's just you feel like you're being preached to when you watch stuff, and it's like even like a movie like Halloween Kills has got to have a message. It's like, come on,
yeah,
just give me something else. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I agree. That those decades were just calming. So, and I think especially in the last 2 years, pandemic, all that stuff, everything kind of unsettled. It's been a good 2 years to watch those kinds of films for me. But
Yeah. I've definitely gotten into more classic movies, I would say, within the past couple of years. Because before that, like all my time was spent watching all the new movies that came out. I was just obsessed with trying to keep up with every single new release that came out. Because I had my Instagram page and I was writing reviews and stuff for everything, and I was trying to keep up with every single new release. And I would go back and watch, some movies I hadn't seen before, like from the 80s and 90s and stuff. But it's been the past couple of years where I really started to dive into more like the 40s and 50s and
cool.
30s. I remember like for a couple of months I was watching only movies from like 1931.
No way.
I watched like 15 movies from 1931. I was like, I'm going to watch 15 movies from every single year. And
Crazy.
1931 was as far as I got. So trying to get into 1932 soon.
That's
I
awesome.
watched my favorite movie from that year was probably Fritz Lang's M.
Oh, cool.
I thought that movie was incredible.
That's
Um,
awesome.
that was a great movie. That was like felt like a David Fincher movie. Like if David Fincher directed a movie in the 30s, that's what that movie would be.
Every once in a while in those decades, you do come across one you're like, this was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I do like just the everyman Jimmy Stewart kind of films that require none of your brain. It's just good for your soul kind of a thing. But every
Yeah.
once in a while, there's a film that's just like, wow, that was really, really ahead of its time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man. But yeah, I definitely, those are all huge gaps for me. And I've got tons of them. But I'm just so like, I don't know, like a lot of people were like, I can't believe you haven't seen that movie. I can't believe you haven't seen that movie. I was like, yeah, I understand that. But also it makes me very excited that I haven't seen
Oh,
all of these
yeah.
movies and I get to go watch them for the first time. Like the feeling of watching Unforgiven for the first time. It's like I know everybody else loves it and knows it's great, but it's like I get to watch it for the first time. So
Yeah.
I don't know, that kind of stuff's really cool to know I have all of these great movies from film history ahead of me. To watch. I don't know, it feels good. It gives me something to get excited about because I don't know, maybe it's because I'm getting older. The last couple of years just aged me like 20 years or something, but I just can't muster up the excitement for the latest Marvel film that I used to be able
Yeah.
to. And just all the newer films, they just feel so hollow. I don't
Sure.
know. It just feels like it feels like a product. It
Hmm.
doesn't feel like anything with soul. And these older movies I'm finding just feel like they have a little bit more heart. It feels like it was made by people that love film and just have a passion for that kind of stuff. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I'm right there with you, man. I agree. And I do like A24. I find that they've done a good job of injecting newer films that have a lot of soul in them. Like The Farewell is like
Yeah,
instantly
Farewell is
became
great.
one of my favorite films. So I think every once in a while, but I agree with you. Um, yeah, I don't get as amped up for it. Um, yeah, I do like some of the older stuff. And I'm lucky. Like, I agree with you. I posted on Instagram the other day that I was watching Raising Arizona for the first time. And someone commented, they said, essentially, like, you're lucky. They said, I wish I was getting to watch it for the first time again.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're right. Like, it is really cool to know I'm going to see some films that are going to blow my mind, maybe change my life for the first time. And it's still in front of me. So I
Yeah.
think that's awesome.
There's just so much film history. You got all the from I mean pretty much what the 1910s all the way to now is
Yeah.
when film really started getting serious. I know there's stuff in like the late 1890s. But yeah, just digging into all that stuff is all super fascinating. And that's just American films. Then you
Yeah.
can get into like international movies, and there's just so much stuff
Yeah.
everywhere. It's overwhelming. Gives me a little anxiety every now and then, but I don't know. It's pretty cool, and I've been really enjoying this diving into Western stuff because I'm finding it's a genre that I'm really connecting to. So
That's really cool. Well, thanks again for inviting the community to join you in it, because it has been really cool to see people participating and just see, like, learning about films that I hadn't heard of or didn't realize were such significant films.
I'm getting like recommendations daily. People, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. I was like, no, I only told myself I was going to watch maybe 15 to 20 Westerns this month. And I'm getting like 50 recommendations every day. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to this, but maybe a Western month part 2 is on the horizon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
Now, are you going to do anything like another themed month in the future? Like, is this going to be a thing you do now?
I thought about starting to do it every month. But like I said, it's easier now because it's not as busy physical media wise.
Sure.
When I get into more having to talk about all the newer titles and stuff, I'll probably get out of it for a little bit. But I'd say I've already got a plan for the next couple months that I want to do. So I'm at least going to do it for a couple more months. And then after that, maybe it'll be every other month or just whenever I guess I can do it. And like I said, it's not something where, because I'm going to be watching more of the new release films and stuff like that too. And I'm still going to be keeping up with the new releases. So if I can commit to 10 films in a specific genre or year or actor or director, whatever the theme is, I'm sure I could do that every month. It's just, I'm not going to be able to dive as much into something as maybe I would want to.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm going to try to keep it going.
Cool, man. Well, it's awesome. Well, I don't want to hold you. You're a busy guy. You got a family. But thanks so much for doing this, man. I really do appreciate it. And thanks for all the content you're constantly putting out. I benefit from it greatly and always enjoy watching it. And then you also do a really great job of involving other people too in the community. And so thanks for all you do, man. You put a ton of stuff out there and it's good.
I try to, man. I appreciate the invite. You have me on. I'd love to come back anytime you need somebody to come on and do a guest spots. And, I need to get you on my channel. I need to get you on World's Biggest Collectors or something. I know you said that my collection's not that big.
Yeah.
But it's really not about that. It's about just having, any collector on there, as long as you have some kind of collection. But I see you bringing in stuff all the time into the Plaid X2 cave. I'm sure you got a pretty good size collection of movies back there.
It's all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything coming up, man, that people should keep an eye out for coming up on your channel?
No, we're just like you said and helped me promote doing the Western months. I'm trying to watch as many Westerns as I possibly can or have time to watch. Want to watch at least 20 Westerns this month, like you said, involving the community. So if anybody wants to, not sure when this video is going to drop, but if anybody wants to take part, hit me up on Instagram and just use the hashtag MLM Western Month on your Instagram post or YouTube channel. If you have a YouTube channel, do a collection or review or whatever. And I'm trying to think of what I got coming up. I'm going to be reviewing Halloween Kills, maybe. I don't know. I don't like to get too negative, but a lot of people want me to talk about it. So I'm gonna review Halloween Kills soon. I'm gonna review probably Juice on 4K and Unforgiven on 4K. So just 4K reviews, physical media report every Monday, Blu-ray hunting videos on Tuesday, out and abouts collection. If you like physical media, come check me out over on my channel.
Absolutely. Cool, Karen. Well, thank you, man. I really do genuinely appreciate you taking the time.
No problem, man. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, man. Take care. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode. I really do appreciate it. I want to say a huge thank you to Ken for doing this with me, for answering the 5 questions. I had a great time. Really enjoyed our conversation. Friends, again, all of his information will be down below in the description box for YouTube and Instagram. So please do follow him. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. If you're here, you already have. But you should check him out if you have not. Great content. Friends, there are 12 more episodes of this. We've got already recorded. You can find here on my channel of the 5. And we've got a bunch more episodes already in the works. So anyway, if you enjoyed it, hit like. If you want more of this kind of content, please do hit subscribe. Friends, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this. Take care of yourself. We'll see you next time.